Hey builders, and welcome back to another episode of Weathering with Matt. Ta-da. So today we're going to continue working on the R5 dome. Uh, Removed all the tape yesterday. The lines look fantastic. Kapton tape really gave good crisp lines, so I'm really happy with that. Um, so what I've started today is I did one of the areas. Went ahead and experimented a little bit with what I want it to look like here. You can see just getting all the weathering and stuff into the cavity there before I actually put the pistons in, or the greeblies, or whatever this thing could be. So we're gonna take this same exact thing and we're gonna show the process here. All right, let's see what we can do. So again, I am using oil-based paints, and what did I do with them? There we are. It's just a cheap oil-based paint from Hobby Lobby, the Georgian Oil Club. So I really like this little kit. The oils seem to be a lot thicker in this kit than some of the others that I've tried. Even some of the more expensive ones seem to be a lot runnier and don't stick to the paint as well. So that's what I use. So to start off with, I'm going to use just, most of the time I'm using their burnt sienna and just black. You can use and add some greens and stuff in too to kind of help change that up, but I'll usually just grab a little bit of both colors and just fill it into the gaps. It's going to look all black when you start because black always overpowers, but whenever you wipe it off, you'll actually see the brown undertones come out. Just fill all your cracks in, nice and messy. You want to make sure to fill all of that area in. You'll see that there's some pitting and stuff in there from the mold or from the paint. You want to make sure to get all of this in that crack or in your jointed area there, and not have any of those white spots showing. And then I'm using microfiber cloths is what I use to wipe everything down with. These come in really big sheets. You can buy them at Walmart or any of your local box stores, and then just cut it down into a rag. And then I'll take and vacuum off all the sides, so you end up with just a nice clean rag. And not having to keep up with the solid big rag. Just want to get that in all your sides on the inside. I don't know if you can see that, but you can start seeing the brown coming out from under the black. Pick up a little bit of the brown on your microfiber. Actually get that on the inside, you can see. And on this, I haven't had much luck doing this on a gloss surface. Most of the time I do this on a satin finish or a matte finish, so most of the time if you're weathering, you don't want it glossy anyway. Okay, and then you can start seeing some of that white I'm talking about there. You can see where I've actually wiped it off. So I'll go back in and add back in so you don't see those highlights popping out. A lot of times I'll just do that with the brown. This outside will all be weathered eventually, so it doesn't matter if you're just trying not to leave a dark splotch. Just kind of put it where you think it would be dirty. A lot of the times I'll go back and, I mean, I've just got a lot of references in my mind, but I'll go back and look at different things. I mean, a good example is to look at weathering on airplanes, ships, different things like that that actually have movement and stuff to them. And then you can go and look at old welded metal pieces and stuff and kind of see where some of the things, and pick the color. I mean, look up, if you're weathering on white, look up white weathering and you'll be amazed at all the things that come up that you can actually look at and try to replicate. Okay, so that's a good start to that. Now we'll work on the piston. We'll do more of the brown and then we'll add the black in, but it's like the brown and the black mixed. For this section here, I'll try to just get this nice and solid, so I'm getting down in all of those grooves. I just used a different paintbrush for that because I'd already basically ruined that brush pushing into all the different holes. And then keep another brush so you can do the more detailed lines. This one I'll just wipe in the direction opposite the line, so you just end up leaving that in the grooves. And then this I'll wipe from the crack so it looks like it's like your oil is bleeding out of your piston joint. You can see it's still kind of wet, but that's what I like about this stuff. It's very adjustable or changeable while it's still wet, and then after you leave it for a couple of days, it all dries out and becomes part of the model. Okay, so there's that part. So then I'm going to go ahead and CA glue this one in. It goes to match the other side. Piston on the top. It's probably not the best glue for this, but it's all I have at the moment. It would probably be better to use something a little bit flexible. E6000 or something, and if these don't stay, then I will add that later. And then we'll go ahead and add around the base of the piston. And you can do with the microfibers, just wrap your brush around and you can get it in. See that normally it would probably just pool in the back since it's on a slant. Just try to keep as much of the brush strokes out as you can to make it look more realistic. Okay, so that gets us in a pretty good spot there for weathering that piston. So what we're going to do on the top, you can see, I mean, just rubbing that on is going to get the white where we want it to be later on. Just knock off any places that look suspiciously high. Rag's actually got some good color on it, so we will just continue working it. all of these will have to be gone and browned, and then on the film use versions, there's a lot of oil and stuff dripping out of his eyes. One thing I did here, as far as these are resin cast, so to attach these, I actually put little LEDs on the inside, because in the film it looks like they're actually lit at some points underneath the black lenses. So I put those LEDs in there. And see if I can find one of the lenses I cut. And these were just cut out of an old cheap pair of sunglasses. And they'll fit right into that layer there. And then once you light up the LEDs, you'll be able to see just the little pinpoint haze of the LED underneath his lenses. And then I've also added 2 LEDs there for what I could see was lit in the film. I haven't went back and watched the Mandalorian episode to see if they light him up there, but I know when he's in the Sandcrawler, it looks like his eyes are lit. All right, so that would continue all the way around, all the way down, and that just basically gets you the off-white dirty look, and then we'll come back in after this dries, and then just keep adding multiple layers until we get the depth of dirtiness that we want to achieve. Okay, let's go to the top pie panels. These pie panels are a little bit shallow, so it's a little bit difficult to actually weather these things. So I did one there. You can kind of see what I did. So I'm just basically going to pick up the brown and the black. Mainly you want a lot more black than anything, and just get that into the groove. And then just do a little bit. It's actually shallow enough where the rag's actually taking it back out, so you could use your finger on both sides and then come around. This may be where I want to get a couple of layers in, and then actually going to get a smaller brush. As far as brushes, I'm just using a cheap set of brushes from Amazon. Came in this cool little pack. A lot of pointed ends. It worked really good for when I was weathering Wally to get a lot of the little detailed paint. But for the price, couldn't beat it. Disposable. And they come in a variety of shapes, so this is just like a flat. Yeah, but it's got that nice thin profile to get down in those lines and not get as much on the outside while we're, yeah, that's much better. You don't want to leave it just solid black, so take some of that back out. And as you're doing it, make sure to get all this excess off while you can still wipe it off. You can also use acrylics for this too, and just do washes on the inside. But I've come to like the oils, and they're handy. right now, so that's what we use. I'm gonna make sure to hit all the bright whites. You can see this red is a gloss, and you can see where the oils don't like to take it as much. So more than likely what I'll come back and do is actually tape those back up and spray a matte finish on them so they will hold the paint. You can see why that's, if you watch the previous videos, of why I didn't worry about getting exact on taping the lines up for the pie panels, because you're going to cover it up with all this weathering. In hindsight, I wish I'd have made the grooves a little bit deeper. Okay, so that covers the weathering techniques I'm going to use on R5. If I come up with anything different, I'm going to use on the bottom around the engine turn vinyl. Then I'll do another short little video, and we'll talk about what we're going to do around that. Well, let's do it. Let's just experiment with it real quick. So what I think I would do is just the same thing. We're just gonna rub that brown in, some black. And you would naturally pool in the corners, so. The thing about these two is you don't have to do it all at once. Take your time. You could do 1 or 2 panels. Come back, do some more. Like that, that's pretty good. We'll just add a little bit more. Another thing is just try not to make it uniform. Try to add some different thicknesses in some spots. Kind of look at dragging the colors out in the direction you think water would flow. That's pretty good. So that's what we would do on all of those sections. See anything that kind of, I mean, while you're doing it, if you get it on your hands, and especially with white, you're touching it, make sure not to leave something that would be construed as a fingerprint or a handprint. Once this dries for a couple of days, it will be there. All right, so that's it for this episode. If I come up with any other things that I'm going to do to this before finishing it, I'll do another video. Happy building.